Recently, YouTubers around the world with huge followings, far bigger than I, have been educating people on the superiority of IMAX film. This is an IMAX film leader, and hopefully you can see huge film frames. Nothing else compares to it, nothing else comes close. And that is the reason that many of us are expecting this 4K release of Oppenheimer to be among the best 4K releases issued thus far. So, just how good is it? Well, I'll come on to that shortly. I think for those of us that have already seen Oppenheimer, then it might be best if you do what I did yesterday, which was spend most of the day with this 4K release of Oppenheimer, because it says on the tin there, 3 hours of extras. Well, I don't think you need to watch them all before you watch this film, but I would recommend seeing this 7-part making of series. I think it runs for about an hour, all about how this was put together with Panavision making special lenses so they could get these extreme close-ups on an IMAX camera, which hadn't been done up to this point. But in addition to that, Kodak were asked if they could produce, and they did, black and white 65mm film again, something that hadn't been done for decades. And that introduced a problem which I suppose hadn't really been thought about much, but the laboratory that did the processing, Photochem, they then had to work out how to do the processing of 65mm black and white film. So there were a lot of technicalities to this, and that's one of the reasons, I believe, why this film was such a huge success at the worldwide box office. It had an estimated budget of $100 million, and so far, because cinemas around the world are still screening this, it's taken $950 million at the box office. Probably more to come, but this is the way to see Oppenheimer if you weren't able to see it at a cinema. You'll find that the aspect ratio of this one varies just like Tenet and Dunkirk before it. It varies between 2.20 to 1 and 178 to 1. You don't get the 143 to 1 on here because that would devalue those superior IMAX shots. But it is obvious when the IMAX shots come in, because I suppose the bigger film frame means that more light comes through the lens to hit the film frame, and it's just immediately obvious. So you've got more light in the image and it's just simply sharper. So fantastic image quality. But in order to see how good it is as a 4K disc, I think you need to compare it to some others. So that's what I did, and that's what I'll come on to. But before we get to that, this one is a drama. So it's different, but it's just wonderful to see a drama with image quality like this, particularly at a BFI IMAX. Now, in here last night, the first thing I had to do before actually sitting down to watch this was evaluate how it looked best through my video projector, and I had to turn the output of the laser lamp down to 50%, so its lowest setting, and the HDR had to be set to light environment, so that's 75%. So that's something to bear in mind, well, before any 4K disc really, because the HDR does vary between all of them, and it's different in here because this video projector is so bright, just ridiculous at times really. So just ensure if you're watching on a telly, you haven't got the brightness up too much, because the HDR may blow out the image, and where you should be seeing detail, you'll just be seeing sort of white light. So that's something to bear in mind. But overall, the image quality is just sensational. The colour, the density, just perfect to my eyes, and the sound, DTS HD 5.1. It's not exactly BFI IMAX 5.0, but it sounded superb in here. Almost knocked me out of my seat a few times with the explosions. So if you've got a massive subwoofer like we have, maybe don't have it sat too close to you, because it can give you quite a shock at times when these explosions come in. You think, my goodness, the roof is going to blow off the house. So just something else to be aware of there. But if you've got a moderate sound system, I think you're going to love the bass in this one. There aren't many like it. You know, the others I can think of are films like Tenet and Dunkirk. So it's really quite special all round, and everyone involved in the making of it, the cast and the crew, all the top people in the film industry as far as I'm concerned, all at the peaks of their career. I think his last 4 films have all been great, but I think I do prefer the previous 3 simply because Interstellar, that science fiction going across the universe. Dunkirk, has there been a war film so accurate where you can go flying with the Spitfires? And then Tenet, what a globe-trotting adventure. James Bond on steroids, I suppose I'd describe that as. And now we've got Oppenheimer, a drama. What a variety of films, what a great filmmaker. And this hopefully is a lesson to filmmakers all over the world, the film industry all over the world, because this 70mm release and 35mm release by the ultimate IMAX really did set cinemas alight. And once more, well, for the first time in a long time, we had a cinematic event with Oppenheimer. How did it compare in here to the BFI IMAX? Well, in here I would have thought this was the best possible way to see the film last night. How could it be any better anywhere else? I have seen it at the BFI IMAX, and that's just 10 times better. It's almost impossible to describe how superior it is to see a genuine IMAX film in that theatre. Don't think I can put it into words. So if you haven't seen Oppenheimer in genuine IMAX, then you haven't really seen it at all. Okay, the 70mm prints are going to be sensational. The 35mm ones I've had reports are very good, but IMAX, those film frames, there's just nothing that can compare with that picture quality. I know within the extras they keep saying IMAX is 18K. Well, I think that just scratches the surface, because you've got the random grain, that totally natural looking depth that nothing else can match. It's got to be on film to get that sort of impression. And although with video cameras, digital video cameras, very good now at reproducing the film effect, and in here projecting them, you think, yeah, you're watching a film. It really is a great illusion. But when you see something that's shot and finished on photochemical film, there's just nothing to compare with it. So I do hope this is the wake-up call for the film industry, the cinematic event that was Oppenheimer. How does this compare, first of all, to the Blu-ray? Well, it's just better than the Blu-ray. It is an exceptional Blu-ray, as you would expect coming from IMAX, but just doesn't match up to the 4K. So I then put on the IMAX, Christopher Nolan IMAX film, Tenet, and mainly due to the locations, this was shot in the sort of tropical almost locations. This is just in a league of its own still, and better than Oppenheimer, but Oppenheimer is exceptional. So next I put on what is best on my UHD 550X 4K video projector, Murder on the Orient Express. This is a standard 70mm, and those 70mm sequences I looked at last night I think might actually pip the 70mm sequences of Oppenheimer, and that again could be down to the lighting. So that one's debatable, but the IMAX sequences of Oppenheimer trump Murder on the Orient Express. Death on the Nile I had a look at, but that is not as good as Murder on the Orient Express. Reasons for that, mainly a lot of green screen owing to how it was shot. 2001 A Space Odyssey, another 65mm shoot. Well, that's not a patch on Oppenheimer. And another one I looked at was Apollo 11, and again, although this is exceptional, it's not up there with Oppenheimer. So one of the best 4K discs for sure. Don't know exactly how good it is yet. I'd have to scrutinise them all closely, and that would take some time, but highly recommended to everyone. So if you haven't seen Oppenheimer, then I think you're in for a treat. If you've seen it already, then you're going to enjoy it even more second time around. Right, I think that brings us to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating content like this. Until the next video, bye-bye for now.